Maritime Matters is brought to you live by Bahamas Maritime Connection.
What is maritime?
Maritime, simply put, relates to navigation or commerce on the high seas.
Some say money makes the world go round. I say ships move the money that make the world move.
Who navigates those large international ships?
How often are international ships required to be surveyed and inspected?
Maritime also protects our seas and borders by way of our local Bahamas Defense
It is
Force.
very sad to say that out of 1,500 plus ships that are registered under the Bahamian flag, only a very small amount of Bahamians are employed.
Maritime Matters.
And pleasant good evening to you, our valued listening audience. Welcome one, welcome all. Welcome to Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain. The producer for our show tonight is none other than Mr. Sensational, the great Craig Gibson. We're coming to you live by Love 97 FM. This is Tuesday, the 28th day of January, 2025. And if it's a Tuesday, you know the deal. It's Maritime Tech Matters. We encourage that if you're driving and you tune in with us, please do so cautiously and ensure to take your time in getting wherever it is you are trying to get. Get there safely. As the saying goes, drive to arrive alive. Our sponsors for tonight's show are 101 Pharmacy and also Island Care Pharmacy. For all your medication needs, check out my little cuz, Shanti McBride, and her lovely team at 101 Pharmacy in Nassau and Island Care Pharmacy in Freeport. Fill your prescription at the store or send your refills via the online site 1on1pharmacy.com. That's all lowercase. Turn into one word, 1on1pharmacy.com. The three locations, again, East Street South. When you go there, say hi to Joy. She's the pharmacist, and that's the one who fixes us up. One on Charles Sanders Highway as well. And of course, in Freeport, Explorers Way, downtown is where we get our second shop, or our third shop, Island Care Pharmacy. When you go to Freeport store, say hello to my big cuz Steph. Yes, Steph, your birthday coming up this February. I know you're a February woman. So say hello to Steph, give her a kiss, and tell her, Maritime Matters, say, whenever I come in here, I must give you a kiss, and you could give me that little something off. She can laugh. Yeah, we are secondly sponsored by Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited. At BMC, we provide a full slate of ISPS maritime security services. It's here that I say good night to my Auntie May. Auntie May up there in Freeport, 91 years old and going strong, people. 92, well on the way. Ain't long now. Boy, I think we can do some singing, some happy birthday for Auntie May up in here when she turned 92. Auntie May, I open it on Tuesday because you know I get beat at the party. I missed it last year. I ain't missing it this year. All right. So, to my good old Auntie May up there in Freeport, let's give her a strong, rousing 91-year-old welcome. And thank you, Auntie May, for being our number one fan on Maritime Tech Matters. You're listening to Maritime Matters, and on this show, we talk maritime. Maritime Matters airs weekly. That's every single week at 17:05. For those of y'all who don't know the military or the maritime operations with time, 17:05 is 5:05 p.m. Right here in the studios of Love 97 FM. The purpose of our show is to highlight persons that made significant contributions to maritime in the Bahamas and to sensitize Bahamians of opportunities in the maritime sector. We also cover current maritime issues from the domestic and international maritime feeds. Now, I back up to my friend today. I just reaching from Freeport. I've been in Freeport doing some work And I can tell you, man, we sat at the airport, not for long, because, you know, Western Air don't play. Western Air, we must leave but half hour. When we get here, like half hour. When we get here, we're supposed to just be leaving Freeport. Let's put it that way. But, you know, nobody's complaining because people rather be early than be late. Like some other airlines, eh? Anyway, I ain't getting in that. But, let me just tell you, I was sitting down to the bar and we was talking about football. I know football, man, but you know, Super Bowl coming up, everybody knows what's going on. If you didn't know what's going on, you're really out of it, right? And my good friend Clayton Curtis and I started to talk about the Maritime Cadet Corps and this and that, how we can improve it and how we can make sure at the end of the day, you know, these students have pathways to get into maritime sector where they could make some good dollars. And when that bill come, that's what get me. I came and I ordered 2 drinks, one for me and one for him. I can't tell that wasn't a drink, but I gave the fella $50. Well, not the fella, the bartender. And when he gave me back my change, I said, this dude must be mess. You getting this? Can't be right. I said, boss, I said, how much drinks? I thought I only paid for 2. Because Clayton is drinking before I reach. Not to say Clayton is drinking plenty, right? But Clayton is my dog. He said, yeah. He said, oh, man, the fella grabbed the receipt and he gave it to me. And guess what? The receipt had 2 drinks on it. One for 15 something and one for 14 something. He gave me $20 and change back. And I thought, I said the fella must be supposed to give me next 10 or something, right? Man, look here, $30 for 2 drinks at the bar in Freeport. I talking about regular drinks. I don't about nothing highfalutin. What my friend is highfalutin. Regular drinks. Man, look here. I stopped drinking at bars in airports. That's it. I don't normally do it anyway, but I just ain't gonna do it now. You notice I gave him that 50 looking for 30 back and he gave me 20. My goodness. Man, we can do better in this country. This country is too far gone. We need to do some things to catch up in this country. How people can afford that? I mean, I might can afford it sometimes, but that ain't affordable, man. We gotta do something with that. Yes, it's airport, man, but that's I don't know. That's the people price. I just letting you know. I am still shocked. That's why I had to talk about it. The phone number to call us on, if you wish to reach and get in on this discussion during this particular show, is 326, or any show, 326-8255. That's the number to reach us on Maritime Matters. And again, that's 326-8255. If you want to hear a replay of this show or of any of our previous shows, simply hit us up at any time via our YouTube page. That's Maritime Matters Bahamas. Now that's 3 separate words. All lowercase, all one way. No, Maritime Matters Bahamas. You go there in your search engine and YouTube and you plug in Maritime Matters Bahamas. Man, all of our shows could just pop up. Go all the way back 2 years, and next month mark when year 3 starts, and you know we're about to stop because we got plenty to get out, and you know things are rolling. So let's talk maritime. Hello. The topics we aim to engage tonight. Deep topics. They are as follows. Cruise ship ports to facilitate the emerging cruise ship market. Now we know that they making cruise ships like mad, and guess what? They making them bigger and bigger all the time. And they prettier. And they holding more people. And more people going on cruises. And all the rest of that. But where we sit, where does the Bahamas sit? Bahamas sit on the doorstep of the 3 largest home port for cruise ships in the world, and large by far. Ain't nobody even close to them when it comes to taking on passengers for cruises. And I don't know why. I don't know why they happen to be where we are, or we happen to be where they are, but the reality is they are. And you know, we have somewhere in the range of 8 million passengers, or is it more than that? I don't know. I know we had almost 30,000 in one day that 2 weeks ago. So we got millions of tourists coming in every single year on cruise ships. You know what they're telling me? If the cruise ships could generate, they could build fancy ships and coerce or coax people to go on them ships and come to the Bahamas by the millions. We don't even have to do that. Because they come in. All we have to do is find ways to get them to spend a couple dollars while they're here so we could make some money out of them. Eh? The cruise ship making their money, you can't blame them. But blame us because as a country, we are weak and lousy when it comes to finding ways to get money out of the pockets of those cruise ship passengers because they have money. And we could blame everything else except ourselves. You know what it boils down to? You and me. I blame the government. What I can blame the government for? Because if we ain't putting pressure on the government, then we can't blame them. They love it when we don't put no pressure on them because they can just do, not just the government, It's also the opposition. The government in waiting, whether it be this time, next time, or time after next. They are the government in waiting. What are they doing? Can they tell us? If they're prepared to do something to get some of the money out of these people's pocket by giving us incentives or encouraging us or saying something to us, man. Say something. They should be traveling around the world on cruise ships. The members of our Ministry of Tourism or whichever entity is responsible for getting money out of people's pockets when they come to the Bahamas. They should be traveling and checking out all of these ports because I see plenty of ports that have some things that I'm sure we could use in the Bahamas to get money out of those people's pocket the same way. Anyway, I could talk about that forever. Whether they want to listen or not, I ain't getting in that. But you're not listening. The Bahamian people, I know you're listening because everybody's saying, boy, they ain't calling in, but they're listening. They're listening. We need to do something to get some money out of these people's pocket. We need to put pressure on our government if necessary. But let's put pressure on them and they ain't telling them what you want. So let all of us figure out ways. Because the cruise ships are bringing them here. Now I can tell you one thing. The cruise ships are bringing them to Nassau. And in like form, they are taking them to their private islands. So what they're telling us? They come into Nassau and we making a lot of money out of them. I can tell you we making a lot of money. Don't mind us talk, but they don't spend. We making plenty money out of them right here in Nassau. They go to Freeport, which our government don't have the control over. And, Freeport ain't set up like Nassau. They got to take ride to get somewhere in Freeport. They can't just walk to places in Freeport. They don't have the kind of tours and history in Freeport we have in Nassau. So Nassau is the big hub, right? Excuse me. And then they have their own private islands. And they got them in abundance. You got Cocoa Key and Stirrup Key right there in the Berry Islands. You got right there in what used to be Gorda Key, Castaway Key, which is owned by Disney. You got Half Moon Key, which is between San Salvador, what used to be Little San Salvador, between Saudi Lutra and North Cat Island, right? That's Half Moon Key. Then you got Princess Key to the south of Lutra on land, and then this Disney just now building one right there on the southeastern tip of Lutra. I think it's Lighthouse Point, right? That's now almost ready to open this year. I think at the end of this year they should be open. And then you got the Bimini chain, where North Bimini, a little pin like North Bimini, got a cruise port, right? Resort World has a cruise port, and they are very busy and they are making money. And then you got another cruise ship owned one called what used to be Ocean Key. What it is now? I think it's still Ocean Key. That's MSC Cruises. And these people ain't taking no prisoners. When they fix up their key, them people go there and they spending money and they spending big money because they ain't cheap. They ain't got no cheap price like we have in Nassau. And if we decide, and we need to decide as a country, where we could put docks on each family island. Because why? Because if we got the 3 largest cruise home ports in the world, and all of them are just to the northwest of us. All 3 of them close, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and Port Canaveral. They like within 300 miles of each other. You know, in the Bahamas, we got we about 600-700 miles long, and then we another 200 miles wide, and so they cannot pass us to go anywhere else. Even if they just skate to the tip or the western tip, or if they skate to the eastern tip, or if they come through like how they normally do, they passing island after island, and most of them are restricted because if Carnival have a port, or I ain't talking, but the Carnival site coming up in Grand Bahama, up there, head northeast, I just pass it, I'm going up to South Riding Point, but it ain't that far, right by way UBS, on the Grand Bahama or Great Bahama Highway. Let me tell you something, that could be something, but that's only for Carnival. You know, the cruise line could be able to go there. So let us put pressure on our government to put some cruise ship ports in place. And I can tell you where we need to put them. And I will tell you where we need to put them. Because see, I was an old navigator. I used to be a captain for years on the Defense Force. And there's no land we never used to go to. Every rock, every key, I can tell you where it is by the palm of my hand. I knew them by radar. Used to do it in the night note. So I can tell you where deep water runs in this country. I mean, you can look at the map and see it. You ain't got to listen to me. You ain't got to listen to me. Because we got a situation where MSC recently, I say recent, I mean like in the past 10 years, right? It even ain't that long, but I'm just saying within the past 10 years. They converted what was a bulk facility. These people who talk about the Aragonite, if they know the history, they'll know that Makona Industries mined Aragonite all around Ocean Key for decades. And they told me we was make so much money off of. If they're making that kind of money off Aragonite, why would they sell that key to AES at the time, which was this an oil company come to set up to get natural gas converted and send it to Miami and that type of thing. But of course, when the U.S. government changed it, that went out the window, eh? But they were there and they bought it, and Makona was glad to sell it. So if they're making all this money, why they could be glad to sell their operation or cease their operation? And that's where you start having problems with these people who talk about you can make so much money off of Aragonite. And not only that, after AES bought the key, and 2 years later they realized what they wanted to do can't happen no more. You know who they sell the key to? For little or nothing? A group of Bahamians. And I ain't calling no name. They say call no name, carry no blame. But they know everybody who know but what happened, they know who bought Ocean Key. And you know what they tried to do? They tried to mine Aragonite. Because somebody tell them, boy, this Aragonite is money. And they mined some. And shortly thereafter, everything collapsed because they realized, I'm sure, boy, you thought money was in this thing. This thing costs more to run than for the money you can make, right? That's the feedback I got. But anyway, MSC bought the key from them and converted that key from a bulk from a bulk facility. What they used to do is they used to mine the Aragonite, bring it in, put it on the ground, and you used to see heaps, man, you could see that key from miles away because they have heaps and heaps of Aragonite. Now, the difference, I think, and I'm no expert, but I had some experts on the show before. And Bahama Rock right now, they mine with the thing named limestone, right? Which in some cases some Aragonite must be mixed up with it, I don't know. But they focus on mining limestone for use in construction and that type of thing, right? And how the difference between what they do and what they did at Ocean Key. And I happen to know this because I've been to Ocean Key many times. I've been to Bahama Rock many times, right? Ocean Key used to mine Aragonite by using dredges. And they used to scrape the Aragonite off the bottom. Or the sand. It's soft sand. That's what Aragonite is, right? Scrape it off the bottom. Even on the banks. They used to go deep into the banks. And then they got a lot of spoiled ground where they take all the Aragonite out there when they first come to use and yada, yada, yada. But anyway, they just use the clamshells, the dredges, and all that to suck the stuff up or take the stuff up of the surface of the sea. But Bahama Rock don't do that. Bahama Rock ain't got no dredge where they taking the stuff off the surface of the sea, so they're going to stockpile that and put that on bulk carriers. Bahama Rock just dig a hole. They drill a hole like 50 to 100 feet under. And then they put the explosive in that hole. And then they say fire in the hole. So what they doing is when you hear kabloom, they breaking up the rock. And then they get something called a drag line. That's that big machine, and I see a couple of them in the States too. So they're only here, right? Big ugly looking machine. You don't want to get close to it because they ain't look good. And that just basically pick up the pieces after the explosion and bring in the different rocks, and then they get crushers and separators, and so they get different kind of rocks. They got 3/4 P rock, they got this kind of P rock, they got boulders, they got the big boulders, they get all kind of rocks. Because when the dynamite explode, you get all kind of different things coming up, right? So the drag liners bring that in, they stockpile that, and they ship that out. But their ship only leave that facility about once every 2 weeks, loaded. So these numbers I've heard, my good friend, I'm Vaughn, Vaughn Miller's my good boy. That's my boy from school days. Calling these big numbers about how much stuff is being shipped out of the country from Bahama Rock. I don't know what, they must have got invisible ships with to carry these things. Because I could tell you, their ship, the Bahama Spirit, and there ain't much other ships that's come there, right? Don't take stuff out of that facility. Sometimes things be sitting there for weeks and no ship come to carry them. So limestone they get in the U.S. as well. They're not only here, but they get good limestone. They get a good supply here for the housing market and construction market in the U.S. So anyway, I digress, right? And I digress far. So we talking about what MSC did with that key, called Ocean Key. MSC took that key and they built a dock. Is that a caller? Oh, caller ready? Wow. Caller, you on Maritime Matters. Good night to you.
Good evening, Captain Brain.
Good evening, my friend. Boy, long time no see. What you said, man?
And yeah, I am blessed and highly favored.
All the time.
I'm very excited about this topic that you have going on here. I think you're right on point.
Thank you very much, my friend. Thank you very much.
I would like to make a contribution, though.
Please do.
And you mentioned Grand Bahama and Bahama Rock facilities that I'm very familiar with. But I just want to point out something, and I want every Bahamian under the sound of my voice, but whoever fly into Grand Bahama, I want you to have a look at this. I think it's a natural disgrace the way we have abused Grand Bahama, and it appears as though we trying to dig the island, we trying to dig we trying to mine cut the island in half because it's so terrible. I mean, you look at Grand Bahama and you look at all this dredging that's going on. When is this dredging gonna come to a halt? And I went all the way to Grand Bahama, but we have the same kind of thing happening right here in Nassau with the Bosine Town, cutting down all them hills, Blue Hills, Coral Harbor. You fly over Coral Harbor. Man, I think that we have a real problem that we are not addressing. This mining situation is very detrimental to the environment, and I think it's because of all that mining that's happening in Freeport now. When I look at the turning basin for the harbor, for example, shit, they haven't even built ships that big that's going to utilize all that space in Grand Bahama. So I think that's something that the government definitely have to look at, and that's my first point. And you could respond to that. They definitely have to look at, man. That mining thing is crazy, and if we don't put a halt to that, we're gonna lose half of Grand Bahama shortly.
Okay. Well, I hear you, my friend. Thank you so much.
I know you disagree with me on this point.
Well, you know that. I can explain right now why I disagree.
Right.
So I'll hang up on you so you can listen to my explanation.
No, I have a couple other points I wanna make as well, because I think as long as we have the status quo, the way how we do engage, the way how we elect governments and the like, and until we put in place visionary thinkers, we're gonna always have all these problems. When I look at, when you mention about filling docks in islands and whatnot, the evidence is so clear and it cannot be refuted when you look at the amount of, for example, a Bimini, for example, when you look at when the cruise ship is there, how the island is overrun by tourists and the economic trickle down from that activity. And you just think about the opportunities in Andros and other places throughout the Bahamas where we can have the exact same thing or even more, because these islands are bigger, there's more opportunities, there's more ships can actually call on these islands and whatnot. It just seemed like a no-brainer, but until we put in place visionary thinkers, people who are not just concerned about getting re-elected and having the status quo remain, we will be forever be talking about these things, because we need people, we need some doers, and not people who just go in there to fall in line with what everyone was doing many years, eons ago, and not wanting to move the country and the economics activity to where it need to be. So that's my 5 cents.
No, I don't want you to go nowhere. I even think I answered that first question. I can move into which way you is now, because that first question we can always talk about that, right? We got a lot of opinions on that, and my own is simply, when you have development, you have these things. Plus, I understand they're doing something like creating an area with a port where some Royal Caribbean ships will have their own space in there. But that ain't nothing to do with what I talk about tonight. Let's look at what you just talk about when you talk about the family islands. The reason why I started out with MSC and Ocean Key is because what they did with that key is what they need to do with Morgan's Bluff.
Oh, it did?
Because Morgan's Bluff was a liquid bulk facility, just like how there was a bulk cargo facility for Aragonite, right? So Morgan's Bluff already has a channel. Morgan's Bluff already have a big long dock, right? They have a small turning basin which could be expanded for cruise ships to turn around, right? So if they dredge a channel for cruise ship to go into Ocean Key, all they gotta do is finish dredge Morgan's Bluff channel, right? If they strengthen and repave the dock area, all they got to do now is strengthen and repave the dock area in Morgan's Bluff. If they erect portside structures and whatnot, they could do the same thing. And when I say they, I'm talking about our government, right? Because if our government does it, then any cruise ship could come down. It ain't no MSC doing it, or Carnival doing it, or Disney doing it. Any cruise ship could come there. So we'll get at least 2 cruise ships there a day, right? And they come in there at a cheap rate. Because once you see 1 or 2 cruise ships a day go into Morgan's Bluff, and we got at least about 5% of the people in New Providence will move back to North Andros, because that will be enough to facilitate them having a good, steady income.
Well, I definitely 1,000,000% agree with you. I'm just so surprised that such a easy, low-hanging fruit we as a country we have not decided to go and pick.
Yeah, because we like to sit back and criticize. When we see Disney doing what they doing, and MSC did what they did, and now Carnival going to do what they doing up in Freeport and in Freetown, and all we do is we say, oh, all these people coming in. What are we doing as a country or government with other family islands? Ain't none of them in Andros. Ain't none of them in Exuma. Ain't none of them. The only places they are some Keys and Elutra and well, Bimini got one now, right? But they make mainly on Keys. So if we got the 3 largest home ports in the world right on our doorsteps, and we got countries like Holland turning them away in Amsterdam, right? Up in Alaska, they turning them away. They said only so much we can take. And in the Greek islands, right, they turning them away. And in Nice of France, just last week I was reading an article where they don't want them in Nice. They say we even want the big ones here. So
they're overrunning the island, and the locals are being really and truly displaced
yes,
because of the tourism. But you know, when you look at every example that you gave with respect to what the cruise lines are doing here in the Bahamas, every example, and bar none, is where the cruise line told us what they want to do. So I don't know if we're waiting on somebody to come, or some entity to come and say, well, I want to do something with Andros. I don't know whether or not, our political masters, if it will take a foreign entity to come and show us what we can do in the Bahamas, or how we can expand the economic prosperity in Andros. But you know, I think that we need a paradigm shift in the way we think and the way Bahamians think. I don't know whether or not that's going to happen, because, like I said earlier, I think you need visionary thinkers in the government in order to drive some of these things, and then also you need more input from the general public and civil society and whatnot. We too lackadaisical. We too laid back. We like things happening around us. We don't want to be a part of nothing. We don't participate in nothing. If today or tomorrow they call a town meeting and says, look, if we want to have a town meeting, we want to discuss how we can bring some economic activity to North Andros, you will be able to count the amount of people in that room, because we just don't. I know that's the government job to go create for North Andros. Yeah, I'm from Andros, but I comfortable here in Nassau, or I comfortable in Freeport, or whatever the case may be. We as a people, we need to change our mindset. We too.
The only issue with that, right? The only issue with what you're saying, and you are absolutely spot on, right? But the only issue I have with that is we as a group of people tend to feel like, oh, we can have our say when election come. And you don't manage governments by putting them in a chair, because once you put them in a chair, they can do what they want to do. You need to manage them while they're in the chair.
Exactly.
We need to start protesting, going in Russell Square like how the teachers did back in the day, like how they had Burma Road Riot and all that. We need to start protesting and telling them, we need y'all to put on the agenda when y'all can build these ports. Right? But the thing is, you know, our people, we just a bunch of clowns when it comes to moving forward as a collective. We just a bunch of clowns. I remember one time we had one march, they call it We March. Man, and that was, in my opinion, we didn't have 1% of the people, but we had a good group, right? And we marched. The next thing you know, the fellow who organized that, he in the Senate, right? and the thing is, people only march because of those items on that paper that they figure they need to protest against.
Yeah.
So when are we going to have another We March? But instead of having the march, we just going to assemble at Rawson Square. Well, we ain't going to do that. We could march out Clifton Pier, man. But if we get enough people, the government will pay attention.
I agree, 100%.
Right? What is 1% of the Bahamian population? Let's say we get 400,000 people. 1% is 4,000. When you can see 4,000 people assemble to do a march in this country to protest or to say to the government, oh, look here, we need ports in our family islands. When? You will never see 1,000. You probably wouldn't even see 500.
Well, the thing is, the way how we look at government, when I say we, this is really and truly a phenomenon. The government supposed to serve the people. As soon as they are elected, we turn around and we genuflect, and we find out how they become whatever they say would be what we swallow, and we think it's right, and we think that they have all the ideas or whatever the case may be. We're not a participatory society, and we have never been that way, and I don't know if we can ever get to that, because when you look at worldwide, the only thing, every time you have a movement, every time you have change happen, is because the people
rise up.
Oftentimes have to rise up and force the issue, force the change to occur. But we have never been that way. We never had to fight for nothing, and when I look on the horizon, I don't see that coming. I don't know whether or not the next generation is going to be a little bit more aggressive than us. But this thing, we definitely have to petition our representatives and encourage them to let's think outside the box. Let's see how we could build other islands other than New Providence. Because
what about the opposition though? We have a government in power, or an administration in the power of governance, and then we have an opposition. Why is an opposition protesting or putting pressure on administration that's been elected to do certain things like putting cruise ship pairs in the family islands?
Well, I worked in the public service for a while, and in every case, anything you want done, it takes individuals to advance these things. As a matter of fact, what I found. And this is what I found is that the politicians really and truly are lazy. They don't want to do no way. If you do all the heavy lifting, all the groundwork, and it looks like it's going to be a good political statement for them, they will go ahead and they will push that, right? But if somebody don't take the bull by its horn and an individual do not drive this bus, it won't drive. I'm sorry to say, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah, but recently, Brother Brian, in recent years, we've been seeing a lot of protests being staged by the COI party, right? This even before they became a COI party, Mr. Lincoln Bain was really spearheading a lot of protests and this and that, and none had anything to do with putting pairs on the family islands so that a lot of people could go back to their island and have a viable income, right? But it had to do with a lot of things. But again, I don't see anything from those that really are in the House of Assembly as our opposition. Because them said Mr. Bain and his people ain't got nobody in the House of Assembly.
Yeah.
Well, and this is where we need to not only apply pressure from the collective on our government or our administration in power, but also on the opposition that are in the House that we have elected and put there to do something about things like this.
Well, true words of not be said. The last time I saw any type of movement that was noteworthy from that other side was when we had the issue on Paradise Island, when the opposition participated, and in particular, Mr. Menace went across Paradise Island, and when we had that issue on Paradise Island, that's the last time. So I don't.
Yeah, but I don't want them participating. They need to start leading some of these initiatives to cause the administration in power to have to do some things, not just participate or show some support. No, they should be the leaders.
Well, I agree with you.
That's why they're there. They're in the parliament.
Well, again, it's political will. If they don't have that, if you don't have the political will, and you're only thinking about the election cycle and what is expedient to you becoming re-elected to parliament, then you're not going to be a visionary thinker. You're not going to do things like these basic stuff that you're mentioning and leading and the charge in that regard. You're not going to end up doing it because you may not be popular when you do these things. So again, it boils down to individual political will.
Well, I could be a voice crying in the wilderness, and if that's in the wilderness, it got to be in the wilderness for a long time, because these views I got ain't gonna change. I am not gonna slow down on pushing these views.
Well, Captain Bain, you really and truly, these views that you're pushing. These are very, very basic things that make good economic sense. And I'm surprised. Honestly, I'm very surprised that if I was the government, I would have jumped on this. I would have jumped on this bandwagon a long time ago, really and truly. And let's see if we could at least initiate a study or bring some of these things to fruition, because the islands are crying out. The people are crying out every single day.
Yeah.
There's really very little economic activity in some of these islands, and having a dock facility for cruise ship overnight transforms those islands into destinations.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
And so yeah, I don't know, man. I hope they're listening. And I hope that they are interested in moving the country forward to the extent that we need it to be jolted, and hopefully in due course something will happen, and we won't be that voice crying in the wilderness for so long. We'll be in the city.
Well, we haven't heard from you for so long, so I thank you so much for calling. I know they do you. We dying. You retire now, so you can't be as busy as you used to. I know. I can keep my thoughts to myself.
Well, I got to hurry run because they say I've spoken to a few people. They said when them two brains get together, they don't allow nobody else to call in. So
oh no, the lines are wide open. So as soon as we move on, I'm gonna finish this area. Boy, I got some big things coming up. I talking about global warming and energy. I mean, we could be talking about energy from the sun, energy from the wind, nuclear energy, hydrogen. Boy, we got some big things to go after this first break.
Well, it's energy. I don't know whether or not the energy, whether or not all the thrust as it relates to the energy and how the advancement of renewables. I don't know how that's going to play out because we got some new players on the world stage who have other opinions. So I'm not sure whether or not.
No. I can talk about that, but you'll be surprised. You'll be surprised to know that country is number one when it comes to certain energy. That they already produce more nuclear than anywhere else in the world, and now they're going to be using those productions for general commercial use. I got an article. Anyway, I can talk about all that in a little while. But I want you to continue listening. So you.
Oh, indeed, and permit me if I wish to chime in again at a later on in the show.
Man, used to co-host, man. You need no permission anytime. All right, my brother. Thank you so much. And we'll keep in touch and continue listening. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's my co-host. He don't like to be in the studio. He a little slack. But he all right. He's a good man. He knows. He's very knowledgeable. In many areas, he's more knowledgeable than me. But I don't like to tell him that because sometimes he hears as well. But he cool, man. I'm Captain Herbert Brain. We talking about, ladies and gentlemen, listen to Maritime Matters. And on this show, we talk maritime. We're going to venture into some other things tonight. But we talking maritime right now. We talking about ports on the family islands for cruise ships to go and shift the paradigm whereby those family islands, and we want every family island to have a cruise ship dock where a cruise ship can readily come and be readily facilitated. And we so blessed, this country, we so blessed to be where we are because we are on the cuff of the 3 largest home port facilities in the world. We got islands piled up like dirt, and I talk about developed islands. We got ocean touching the rock on every single one of them, where we could put a dock for cruise ship to come, without heavy dredging and all the rest of that, right? So I started out by talking about MSC, how they converted Ocean Key from a bulk shipping facility, they used to ship aragonite, to a cruise ship facility, right? We talked about Morgan's Bluff, which used to facilitate bulk water when we used to be bringing water in from Andres prior to us doing so much RO or reverse osmosis water for New Providence. We talk about that. And why can't Morgan's Bluff, now since for the past 10 years or so, and they're sitting there, why can't we do to Morgan's Bluff what MSC did to Ocean Key? Because it's a low-hanging fruit, it ain't gonna cost that much. But we will have 1 or 2 big cruise ships going in there at least once a day. Right? And that will change the landscape as far as the economy of North Andres. We know that, right? Now we got Disney. Disney created Castaway Key from what we used to know as Gorda Key. Gorda Key was just a piece of land with an airstrip. You ship a lot of drugs there in the past, in the 80s, I think. I know, based on the Commission of Inquiry. And Gorda Key really had much there. One little house the airstrip and stuff like that. And Disney went there and they built a dock. And they did some dredging because ocean already touching the rock. So they will do a little bit of dredging to get between those rocks and go to that big dock, right? And I can tell you that has been a major success for that cruise line. And that same cruise line is now doing a similar thing at Lighthouse Point. Now see, Lighthouse Point is one of the prettiest coastal areas in our country, right? Beautiful. You got ocean on one side, and the banks are it's very similar. Well, they ain't quite similar to that glass window bridge in Eleuthera, but the concept is similar. But you know, they right on the edge say, why government couldn't be doing what Disney's doing at Lighthouse Point? Because if government could have done that, and if government had done that, any cruise ship could have go in there, and plus we could have had structures like fish fry and whatnot. And restaurants and bars in the area, but locals could own. So instead of it being a Disney venture, it would have been a Bahamas government venture. And that's for Disney with Castaway Cay and Lighthouse Point, right? We just had Coco Cay. Now, we know Royal Caribbean always owned Coco Cay for many, many decades now, right? But Coco Cay, the ship used to go there, the cruise ship used to go there and drop their hook. They used to anchor off. And they had to get tenders or small boats that they used to keep in port to come out and pick up all the passengers who come on the shore. Right? And they used to be doing that all day. All day they got tenders running between the ship and the shore. So what they did recently is they built a dock where they, now you know, our Royal Caribbean have the largest cruise ship. They got like 10 largest in the world. Well, maybe not 10, but at least 6 or 7, right? Largest cruise ships in the world. And they're the largest of the largest they have. Can go straight all the way into that dock. Because they did a little bit of dredging and they built the pier coming out, which is a dock. And then their people don't, they don't need tenders no more. And you know who's trying to do the same thing right now? Stirrup Cay. But they still anchoring and they still have to do tendering. But they realize that it's cheaper to just put a dock. Because they got ocean touching the rock too. And I could guarantee you within 5 years they'll have their dock in place. Maybe within 2 years, who knows? And they wouldn't be tendering and dropping anchor no more. So if they could be doing all of this stuff, and they got proposals, right? Going to bed on cruise ship facilitation on these private keys and private islands and what. But what proposals does our government, the Bahamas government, not necessarily the administration of the day, but the Bahamas government, which includes everybody in the House of Assembly, what proposals do they have to build cruise ship ports on our family islands? Not a port, just a dock. You ain't need no ports. The family islands have ports. You just need a dock button out into the ocean from the shore so the cruise ship come and tie up. And the people could just walk ashore and the sky's the limit. Right? What plans are there? Are there any plans? Are we just going to sit and say, oh, the government ain't doing nothing? Is the government just going to sit and say, oh, them cruise ships dealing with that? We ain't want none of that. Oh, man. Let's look at our islands. We need plans for cruise ship piers at Southwest Point, Abaco. Because again, ocean touching land, we ain't got to do much dredging, we got to bring the pier coming out, and that whole area can be developed to facilitate cruise ship passengers. That will change the landscape of South Abaco, Abaco in general. Because the whole of Abaco got a lot to offer tourists, eh? You could go bird watching, you could go whale watching, you could go bone fishing, you could go deep sea fishing, you could do so many things. Diving, you name it. All the Woodbees doing NASA could be done up there. So let's look at Southwest Point. And I don't do this for you all. I don't do all the homework for you all politicians. I don't do all the homework for the opposition. I don't do all the homework for all Bahamians. We just need to make some things happen. Yeah? What about Stocking Island and Exuma? Now, Stocking Island have ocean touching it. But you got to go on the next side so you could walk across Stocking Island, which is like a couple steps. Stockton Island is just a strip of land, eh? Walk on the next side, and you have a protected harbor, the most picturesque harbor in the country, Elizabeth Harbor, where we have our family island regatta, the biggest one ever. And we can have high-speed vessels just going from Stockton Island to Georgetown Dock, which is only a 5-minute run. And they be carrying people up and down all day, and people with that boat ride alone, well, it don't have to be expensive because it's so short, could be an experience. And then when they get to Georgetown, the sky is the limit for the amount of things that they could do in Exuma. And all our family islands are like that. Go to Drexel Andros. You know how much deep blue holes and crab catching and they go digging crab and all this time of the year. Once you could get that cruise ship pier to stem off from Drexel Dock right now, because they can't get in that little cove. They extend it out and let them just come up to the dock. They could walk ashore. And then they could have tours pile up like dirt. Especially dive tours. So, bone fishing. Come on, man. Where are we? Why are we sticking our head in the dirt and not actually capitalizing on what could be? And how rich this country could become overnight. Just by spreading the joy. Hawks Nest, Cat Island. Another spot. The whole of Cat Island could generate, can benefit from that. Just put that pier at Hawks Nest sticking out into the ocean side. Because, you know, they got banks and they got a little ocean there. But they ain't got to do too much dredging to get there. Let's get the cruise ship at Hawks Nest, Cat Island. Clarencetown, Long Island. Well, of course, you may not be able to get all the way into Clarencetown, but that key opposite or that ties into the land to the south side, and put the dock off from there and let them walk around or have a shuttle to get them around from there to the town. And then, you know, Clarencetown is the capital and the biggest settlement in Long Island. Well, it's the biggest. I think it's the biggest. So, get them to Clarencetown. And that will be the Long Island stop where they don't have to catch no tender to go ashore. This tender thing outdated, man. Columbus Landing in San Salvador. You could take it up further by riding rock in and them. But I say Columbus Landing because it's so pretty. And that nice beach right there. You know, and that you got ocean touching it. Come on, man. That's deep water straight up. Cruise ships will love it. Passengers will love it. Islanders will love it. And right down the road, across the road, is Port Nelson. Rumkey. Rumkey is a small island, you know. But you bring that cruise ship to Rumkey and watch how much of my Rumkey family could be heading back to Rumkey. Because why? Because jobs pile up like dirt. Because if you got thousands of people coming every day, you got plenty jobs. And a lot of these people don't even want to be in Nassau. I happen to know. Because I happen to be, I don't want to be in Nassau, but I guess I have to be here. But a lot of people would be happy to go back to the island if they could get a viable job in dealing and facilitating cruise ship activities. And there'll be a lot. Landriel Point, Crooked Island. Come on, man. Landriel Point is rich and ripe. Putting a dog there's like nothing. Cruise ship passengers going to Landriel Point, they could get all over Crooked Island. They could even catch a ferry cross to Long Key, eh? They can even get a ferry cross to Acklands. But Acklands gonna have their own at Salina Point. So they need to go to Landriel Point to get it. Salina Point will have its own dock. Betsy Bay Mayagwana. Matthew Town in Agua. Come on, man, we need this country to have enough docks. Enough docks. For cruise ships to pick, choose, and refuse. And because so many cruise ships are being built, so many cruise ships coming out of those three big home ports in Florida, because it's so many of them. We can't have to, because the rest of the world, well, not the rest of the world, but other areas where they like are turning them away. So let's open up and let's flood the area with docks and tell them, come on, man, we ain't telling you all the way. Build bigger ships. Our docks will expand and we'll increase and improve the docks. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Maritime Matters. I'm your host, Captain Glenn Bain. We're going to take our first break and then we'll get into some global warming operations. Please stay tuned because the information is going to be off the chain.
At Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited, we offer first-class maritime security services throughout the Bahamas and the wider Caribbean. As experts in maritime security, we specialize in production of ISPS assessments and plans, verification audits, certified familiarization training, and port security consultancy, just to name a few. Our services also include provision of a security force to maintain all required ISPS facility security compliance. For all your maritime security needs, visit us today in Nassau at our East Street South location or in Freeport in the Kipling Building. Call us at 392-3515 or follow us on all social media platforms. Bahamas Maritime Connection, your leader in maritime security. Let's help you make the connection. At One-on-One Pharmacy, our friendly staff is ready to serve you. Visit us today for all your prescription and over-the-counter needs at our East Street South or Charles Saunders Highway locations. We're open Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and from 9 to 4 on Sundays. In a rush? Send your refill scripts online at oneononepharmacy.com or ask about our convenient pickup service. One-on-One Pharmacy, providing personal health care with people at heart.
Love 97. It's a great feeling.
Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes, watching the ships roll in, then I'll watch them roll away again. Yeah. I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Just sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. I left my home Georgia, headed for the Frisco Bay. I've had nothing to live for, look like nothing's gonna come my way. So I'm just gonna sit on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Tuned in to Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain. My producer for the night is Mr. Craig Gibson. We are here. We have been running along with Family Island cruise ship facilitations. We get past that, so now we're going to move to global warming. Ways required to eliminate carbon emissions. We need to know what the Bahamas, well, we really need to know. We don't know what Bahamas doing, right? But we need to understand what the world is doing because they ain't got no choice. We ain't got no choice. You know, all this catastrophe going on. The big flood they had in Italy the other day. The big fire going on in California in the middle of the winter. That's unheard of. So all of these things going on because there's a big disturbance. A big, huge disturbance. And the climate as a result of what they call global warming, all that carbon blocking the environment, keeping the heat trapped on it and all that contributing to, and it's going to only get worse if we don't do something real quick. And the world has pledged that they could be doing something. We got timelines, things have started to happen, things are happening, and let's just go over some of, really what we can talk about is, first of all, where we could get the energy from so that we don't have to put carbon in there. And that coming from the sun, that coming from the wind, that coming from nuclear, that coming from hydrogen, which some of us is basically water molecules. And you got a couple other sources like ammonia and that type of thing that people developing, but really small scale, right? The big three, or the big four, or the big three, is going to be the sun, the wind, and nuclear. So how are we going to break that down? And I want some of y'all to help me with this, right? Because I've been doing a lot of research on it over the past couple months, or probably even years, but months for sure. And even for the show, we got, first of all, the Earth, as I said on numerous occasions in the past on the show, is getting hotter than it ever been. Last week we talked about how the ocean during November was the hottest it ever been in history, in recorded history. The ocean was the hottest. And what heating up the ocean could cause? Heating up the ocean could cause a lot of fish species to die out because they're just too hot for them. Some of them can't go in deep water, right? So when the sun hit them and the heat hit them, the water too warm, and they just can't take it. It could also, heating up the ocean could also cause plants, the planktons that the small fish you just eat, so the big fish can eat them and the chain keep going on. All the reef get bleached out and things like that because the water is too warm. They can't survive in warm water. So we got to try and make sure our ocean ain't heating up no more. Not only that, we still got to stabilize our atmosphere because the instability is causing a bunch of flood where flood don't normally go. And it's crazy. It's crazy. But let's just talk about what's going on the world scale when it comes to energy from the sun. You know, between if your country lie close enough to the equator. And when I say close enough, you got the sun, this move from one side of the equator to the next, and it keep going between those which you call Tropic of Cancer, which is a line some 22.5 degrees north of the equator, and the line 22.5 degrees to the south is known as the Tropic of Capricorn. So within those two, Cancer and Capricorn, is the equator. And the sun moves in line around the equator. Now, if the Earth was in line with the sun, then it wouldn't move. But of course, the Earth is not in line directly with the equator because it's tilted. And so the sun ain't moving. The sun don't move. It's the Earth moving around the sun at certain sections where the sun's shining on the Earth. It causes, that's why we have winter in the north when there's summer in the south. Because right now we're in winter, right? That's because the sun is heading for the Tropic of Capricorn. The sun on the next side of the equator from us. And when we have summer in the middle of June, the sun is directly over us. Because it don't go, you've been there, anybody who been to Exuma? I've been to Exuma on numerous occasions. Well, I used to be on Defense Force. But even after I left Defense Force, I went there on holidays once or twice. And you rent a car, and you could drive from one end to the next, and you guys see the whole island, eh? We do that on every family island when we go to have once we get a rental car, we want to see the whole shebang. And as you drive in Exuma heading southeast, you heading toward Williamstown, which is the last settlement, you come across a sign that says Tropic of Cancer. And of course, they have a road leading to the beach. They have a Tropic of Cancer beach. Very beautiful beach, nice homes around there. Yeah, I think no local Bahamians live in them homes, but I just say they're nice, right? And some of us may wonder what they mean by Tropic of Cancer in Exuma. How come they say no other island? Mind you, it is in another island because it runs through Long Island as well. But I don't think Long Island capitalize on the fact that this is the Tropic of Cancer running through this settlement. I gotta go back and see if it's exact settlement in Long Island, right? But it passes through Exuma, Long Island, and then it goes back out into the Atlantic. And then, of course, it passes through some of the countries in like Egypt and to the bottom there of Libya and them, just to the north of the Sahara Desert, because the equator runs through the Sahara Desert. Runs through the north of the countries to the north of the Sahara Desert, like Sudan and those countries. And then you got UAE. We all us want to go to Dubai. Tropic of Cancer also run through them, so they're getting the same climate we just get, you know. Dubai, warm just like us all the time. Well, I mean, sometimes we get a little cold front thing come down, but they warm just like us, right? And it keep going. It goes through a piece of China. It goes through Taiwan. And they say Chinese can someone take that over. I don't know. That's what they say, right? Goes through Taiwan, and so it goes straight around the world. But that's the Tropic of Cancer. And Tropic of Capricorn on the south side, that goes through like Nigeria and Australia and the top part of Australia, that is. You know, Australia huge. And a couple other countries. So both of them go through certain countries. But between those two lines, every single country should be utilizing solar. They should have solar panels on every roof. And well, it'll be very nice if all those countries could have feeding from each house into their grid. So they feed into the grid. They're off grid. Man, you can be off grid if you choose, but that ain't necessary, because using the grid, there could be situation where you put enough solar on your roof, you feed into the grid all the time, and they own you all the time. You ain't never got to pay a dime, right? And whenever the power goes off, the power ain't gonna go off if they solarize, because you basically that's dependent on the sun, eh? And so they say a lot of things about solar. Like I say, most of the countries between the two Tropic of Cancer, Tropic of Capricorn, and in those regions are good because they get it year round, right? They say solar is the cheapest source of energy in 2024. Now we're in 2025 now. So they already know that people who have solar pay less for energy than the people who have wind farm. I'm servicing them. The people who have natural gas servicing them, and all the rest of them. But natural gas is out of the question these days. Only the Bahamas still moving to natural gas, right? So what is happening is, because the world has decided to wean itself off of fossil fuel so that we can stop putting that carbon in the air to have this disturbance in the environment, and at the same time our oceans getting warm and all that. Because of all of that heat, we need to get out. A lot of countries are finding that solar isn't too bad. And the solar panels they used to make, they got better now. So you're buying more efficient solar panels for cheaper price. And 5 years from now, it'll be even cheaper and better. And as you know, a lot of cars, well, that ain't solar. That's something different, eh? Because they don't, mind you, I shouldn't say that ain't solar. Because you have to charge the batteries in those electric vehicles. And if you're using solar to give energy to your home, when you're pushing the plug, you're getting solar charging the batteries on those cars. So you're still winning with solar. And so the cheapest sources was solar and wind farms, onshore wind and offshore wind. Onshore wind meaning they go to the mountains and stuff, and they put those windmills, and they put plenty of them. And of course, offshore means they stake out certain parts of the sea, and they say we could put a farm here so no ships could pass this way, etc., etc. Because they won't be backing up into those posts. And then they also got floating windmills. So where they have oceans and they ain't got no shallow water for you to actually put the windmill, they actually have it where it floats, and the wind's still turning, the windmill is still providing power. Well, of course, they can cost more money, but they got them, right? And that's what's going on with the sun providing that energy through solar. And they say that's the most effective in areas closer to the equator. And the problem with solar, well, ain't no problem, but the challenge as it stands right now with using solar to generate your power is the startup cost. And the startup cost meaning how much you could pay for your solar panels and the cost of the batteries. In a lot of cases, the panels are cheaper than the batteries. And then you gotta have batteries to store that energy that the panels pull down. But you don't need batteries if you are allowed by the government to tie into your electrical grid that is already in place. Because you could send that straight into the grid, and in that case, it will record how much energy go into the grid, and they'll take that from how much energy you're using from the grid and calculate your light bill or your electricity or your power bill at the end of the month. And in most cases, you will probably pay, if you got, it depends on how much panels you get. You know, if you get enough panels to supply your building, you ain't gonna pay nothing. If you get half the amount of panels to supply, then your energy bill will come down probably by about more than half. And when that come down more than half, you start saving some money so you can buy some more panels, and then you ain't gonna pay the more electricity bill. Because you are helping the country or the government grid to produce power. And that's the win-win we're looking for, right? Well, of course, a lot of people in government and a lot of special interest groups who will make money off fossil fuel don't want that to happen. Because that means that money they make it stop, right? They ain't worrying about whether the country weighed itself off that thing and people are paying less for energy and all that. All they saying is my pocket need to stay fat. So I say that without hesitation because it is what it is. Now, energy from wind. What time going already? Wow, 15 minutes left. Energy from the wind. We got wind farms, like I said, on mountains and on the sea. And that's very efficient. It's very efficient because compared to solar, when the sun heats up that, well, not heats up, but when the sun provides energy to that panel on your roof, only so much of that makes it to your grid or to your battery, because a lot of it is lost in conversion. Well, not a lot of it, but a good compared to the energy that when that power, when that windmill turns and sends that energy from the windmill to the grid, they don't hardly lose any of it. But because the sun is more heat, it's not direct. Excuse me, it's not direct like the windmill turning. It's heat, and you always lose some because it's heat. You lose a little more than you use with the wind farms. The wind farms are, for the most part, highly, much more efficient, and plus, wind farms, one windmill generates a lot more than one panel. So you need plenty of panels to generate the same amount of power one of them windmills generate. So that's the give and take on the windmill. Again, you're listening to Maritime Matters. I'm your host, Captain Glenn Bain. And, if you want to reach us, the number to call is 326-8255. That's 326-8255. Give us a call at any time, especially if you have a contribution toward this power situation with the whole earth right now, right? And we also have energy from nuclear. Now, this is the big one. Why we get fooled with this nuclear thing? You see, in times gone by, nuclear was used, we got a call on the line? Very good. Nuclear was used mainly by the military. And we'll talk about that some more when I get through this call. Caller, you on Maritime Matters. Hello.
Good evening, Captain Bain.
Yes, my brother. How it go?
Yeah, I just want to I know that you are out of time.
No, not yet. We got time.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on, ask a quick comment on the climate change globally, from a global perspective, because you're speaking from a global perspective, and I'm just thinking from the standpoint of us in the Bahamas here. We know that the Bahamas have signed on to the Paris Agreement, and we are obligated to do some things because we have signed on this. But give me your opinion on this. When we look at who are the biggest polluters, right? We got China leading the way, then the U.S., then I think it's India and Russia, if I'm not mistaken, right? Mm-hmm. And when you look at say the biggest two polluters, for example, if we just zero in on them, right? The U.S. has just they have pulled out of the climate agreement, and then now they also announced that they're gonna be drilling for oil.
Drill, baby, drill.
Drill, baby, drill. Right?
Yeah.
China, on the other hand, if you look at in the last few years, 2022 and 2023 in particular, China is still they were approving coal plants to the tune of, I think I think I would have read somewhere, they were building like they were approving 2 plants a week.
Yeah.
And so these are the world's biggest polluters. They are still building coal plants, which everybody know, and all the scientists would have agreed, and the evidence is clear that coal is one of the biggest
carbon emissions
that break down the ozone layer.
Carbon emitters, yeah.
Biggest emitters are that, and similarly is that all that the oil drilling and the like. So we have the biggest polluters who basically are the people who's going to be driving this all the initiative as relates to renewable energy and moving the world to a point where we have in the agreement. I think the agreement is where we reduce the heating of the environment to 1.5. I think
make sure don't pass 1.5 degrees centigrade. Yeah.
Centigrade, yeah.
But we already passed that, so that's why I'm catching on now.
So from a country perspective, little country like the Bahamas, who really and truly dependent on some of the gravy that came out of the Paris Agreement, that speaks basically the biggest polluters, helping developing countries to become more climate resilient. I don't see that happening in the near term, and so how do we? I mean, I just want your opinion on this. Do we continue to move forward? Yes, I know the answer to that is yes, but is it really from an economic standpoint? Does it help us in the near term or does it harm us in terms of what we can afford to do right now?
Well, I will tell you that right now it's 2025, and for 2025 they had more energy from wind and energy from sun than they ever had and it's projected that the year 2030, nuclear will be leading the world with putting out energy, because what they're doing with nuclear is they're making small modular reactors. I don't know if you're aware, but right now France, 70% of the energy in France is produced by nuclear, because France is big on that uranium. They're taking all that uranium from Burkina Faso and all those countries for little or nothing and selling it for big bucks. So that's happening.
Nuclear is very expensive. So
nuclear is very expensive up front, but once you don't have it, you ain't really paying much no more, because the nuclear, the uranium and stuff, you could even reuse them, and they're good for billions of years. They when you done heat that up, that's ready to go for another round like tomorrow.
Yeah, but that don't go for us. We'll never be able to afford that.
No, we don't need it, because we have solar. All I'm saying to you is the whole world around, although President Trump is saying he's going to drill, baby, drill, and he's going to sell gas and oil, and people ain't buying it, because people already started to convert to solar and wind. The whole world is basically, a lot of contracts already consummated for that to happen. That is already happening. And they say by 2035, you see with all the cars, most of the cars are going electronic, right? By 2035, they can stop making internal combustion engine vehicles. So although Mr. Trump is saying that, now remember, Guyana just found that big, huge reservoir of oil, and the Guyana president is saying, look, we could drill, baby, drill too. Because yes, the whole world say they trying to clamp down on fossil fuel, but we got to make our couple dollars while we could, because 10 years down the road, we can't make it no more.
Yeah.
So a lot of the surgeons to make money of fossil fuel is because those people who provide and produces fossil fuel know that they come in soon, so they trying to make as much as they could before it go. Ain't nobody, this is what it's all about. And then of course you get certain countries with corruption going on. They don't want the oil to stop. They don't want the gas to stop because they make inside money of this thing. Plus the governments. Look at our government today. Do you know our government make more money off the fossil fuel coming in this country than even the people who bring it in?
Yeah.
From taxes? From taxes. So why would our government want to stop making them hundreds of millions of dollars in taxes by putting in solar power? And they ain't making nothing from it.
Well, I look around every day and I see more and more electric cars.
Yes.
I suspect that with the electric, they eventually there's going to be more infrastructure to support those vehicles.
People plug into their house. You ain't need no infrastructure. I spoke with a gentleman who called the show last month, right? And he said that he have a couple EVs in his yard. He say he only have to charge up his electric vehicle but once every 2 weeks, overnight.
Wow.
Right? So they ain't like when he go there, because once you charge them up, they're good for some 300 miles. Where you can find.
Yeah, and the island is small. Yeah,
the island is 21/7.
Yeah.
So that is not going to be a problem as such, because you could plug that to your house at home and charge your vehicle. You don't need stations. We ain't have no gas stations after 2035. Well, I mean, we may still have one or two, but they ain't gonna be making no money.
Well, I feel that is something that we will have to see, because at the end of the day.
Oh, you can see that.
I think that we as a country, if we don't need the gas station, we'll have them.
Well, they may turn them into food stores
because of our endemically corrupt nature.
But if me and you and everybody else, if 90% of the population got EVs, they could be corrupt as they want, but who can need gas? That ain't gonna help them if we and us gotta go get gas, because we plug it in the house in the night.
Well, I guess.
That's coming, my brother.
Wait and see. We'll have to wait and see, but
the government has pledged. The government has pledged in the Paris Accord. To do with global warming. The government of the Bahamas, this particular administration, has pledged that by 2030, no government vehicle will be ICE, internal combustion. All government vehicles will be EVs. The government has also pledged to the world now that every government building will be solarized for 2030. And that may not happen, because we don't know if that same administration could be in after next year. Right? But now the other administration, you remember, the governments are continuous. The administration may change, but that pledge was made from the government of the Bahamas, not from the administration of the Bahamas. So they still have to maintain that pledge.
Well, governments make pledge every day and don't acquiesce to what they agree.
Our government don't have the luxury when it come to United Nations. Our government don't have the luxury to do what the U.S. can do. Now, Donald Trump come and he say, forget that. We ain't giving the UN no more money. We ain't doing this. We ain't doing that. He can do that because America is not so dependent on the rest of the world. But I'm not sure the Bahamas want to be falling into a situation like that. So once we make that pledge, unless a different administration has compelling reason to change that. And I could guarantee you that would not have been made if there were compelling reasons not to make it.
But you got to remember too now, a lot of the developing countries made the pledge at the Paris Accord to assist developing countries who are who are most impacted by climate to become more resilient. And if all you need is one hurricane to hit before 2030, and all you need the developing countries to continue to not pay the monies that they too would have pledged, and nothing happens. Nothing will happen.
Yeah, but you got to remember too that those developed countries are now catching hell. They're having floods and fires like mad.
Yeah.
So they themselves are getting probably worse than the smaller countries now.
Yeah, but they have to attribute these things to the same thing that all the scientists worldwide are attributing to. They have to say, well, it's because we are not being good custodians of the environment and the climate, and that's why we have these climate issues. But a lot of people think it's a hoax, and until there is consensus and that real consensus among the biggest polluters that unless we do something urgent, we will continue to have these catastrophic natural events. I don't think anything will happen until we...
No, but things are happening every day, my friend. Things are happening to the beat of record solar energy being utilized, record wind energy being utilized, record, they say now the world uses 10% of the entire energy for the whole world is provided by nuclear, and in 2030 that will be almost 20%.
Well, I know for sure when I go to the Exuma chain and I see islands in the Exumas that are completely
solarized.
Yeah, solarized, or even they even have wind powered wind farms in certain islands as well, and some islands have a combination of those wind and solar and everything else. I'm encouraged, really and truly, and I say I know that we had indicated after the hurricane that devastated Ragged Island that Ragged Island is going to be our test case. I would be curious to know how far along we are with that. But
well, let me just tell you that the government of the Bahamas last year said that the money has been put aside, the money has been secured to have Exuma 70% solarized. And they're moving on that right now. I don't know why they're doing it for New Providence, but they're doing it for Exuma.
How far is Ragged Island along? Do you know?
Well, Ragged Island is just a couple solar panels, because I wouldn't be surprised if they already done do that in Ragged Island, right?
Yeah,
because that's a really low hanging fruit.
Supposed to be the test case, and to see how if we could get the whole island solarized.
Well, that's like saying we can solarize South Beach. Well, not even South Beach. Ragged Island only got but 20 homes,
probably,
right?
Yeah.
It solarizing them is. And you don't, I mean, you don't even need, you could solarize those homes and the grid they had, the homes could feed the grid. So I don't see that as a challenge or something that would be an achievement as such, because it's so easy to do.
Yeah.
But Exuma being 70%, so something like that, I like to see that. And I like to hear that they already have the funds to make it happen. But I'm so looking forward to when New Providence is fully solarized and they move away from what they have talking about this natural gas. This natural gas is a thing in the past, man. Anyway, my time has run out, my friend. You had the last say. I had the last say, but you can close up with a statement.
Well, I just want to say that I'm hopeful that we have our political masters listening to us, and we have an opportunity here to do some things, some great things, and particularly if we was to take on board some of the suggestions, like the building docks in certain islands and continuing with the solarization and renewable energies throughout the family of islands, and we have an opportunity to steer our country in a really good direction for our kids and our grandkids to build on, and I just hope that they would take some of these suggestions on board, and we as Bahamians, we could be a little bit more aggressive in holding everybody to account for the direction that the country goes in, and not just sitting back and waiting on governments to tell us what direction to go in.
Indeed, so my friend. And in addition to that, I would like to say that based on what I've been hearing all along and what I've been reading in the press, our government is moving toward moving into renewable energy. Although they're moving immediately to natural gas, which really cuts the carbon footprint by about 30% already. They also, at the same time, on tandem, moving toward solar. And people can now tie into the grid, what I'm hearing, and as we decide that we're going to solarize our own homes, it'll improve just like that. We'll be saving more money. The whole grid will be getting less demand on it and all the rest of that. So I think it's going to happen. I think it's happening already.
Okay. Well, we look like we're on the way, we're on the road.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. So thank you very much for the opportunity, and great show, and it's always a pleasure listening to you. You're always on point, and keep the fire burning, brother.
Thank you, my friend, and thank you for keeping us in tune and keeping us. You make the show that much more lively, man. Keep it up. Thank you so much.
Get it, brother.
Yeah.
Take care.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. You have been listening to Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain. My producer tonight, Mr. Craig Gibson, as always. And I say good night to Annie May. I say thank you so much for listening to our show, every listener. And with that, as always, after thanking my sponsors, Bahamas Maritime Connection, and 2 pharmacies, that's the one in Freeport, Island Care Pharmacy, and of course we got 2 in Nassau. But you all know our pharmacies in Nassau, see I didn't run out of that. With that, I say to you, ladies and gentlemen, Maritime Matters, tick, 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 out.
No credit, no problem.